What if the secret to happiness isn't avoiding depression, but using it as a weapon? What if people who feel the deepest sadness can also feel the most intense joy? Furiously Happy, a funny book about horrible things, summary and key ideas. You've been told that mental illness is something to hide, something to manage quietly or get over. That's the old way of thinking, and frankly, it's complete bullshit. Furiously Happy shows a new idea. If you can feel crushing sadness, you should also be able to feel crushing happiness. Jenny Lawson doesn't just survive her battles with depression and anxiety. She turns them into weapons of joy. She creates a life so deliberately, furiously happy that it becomes an act of rebellion. I am furiously happy. It's not a cure for mental illness. It's a weapon designed to counter it. Jenny Lawson. One big idea. Mental illness doesn't stop you from being happy. It can actually make your capacity for joy even stronger when you learn to use your emotional intensity on purpose. Who this book is for. Mental health warriors feeling alone or ashamed of their struggles. Spoiler alert, you're not alone and you're definitely not broken. Caregivers and loved ones who want to understand without saying things like, "Have you tried yoga?" Anyone feeling different who's tired of pretending to be normal, whatever that means. Self-advocacy learners ready to stop saying sorry for taking up space in the world. About Jenny Lawson. Jenny Lawson is a #1 New York Times best-selling author. She somehow convinced the world that her particular brand of chaos counts as expertise. Known as the Bloggess, she's won the Audie Award for Best Humor and the No Stigmas Hero Award for Mental Health Advocacy. This is impressive considering she once got lost in her own neighborhood. She spent over a decade using her platform to remove stigma from mental illness. She's built a community of magnificent weirdos who find comfort in her words and questionable life choices. Story Shot 1. What if depression is actually a superpower in disguise? Here's what nobody tells you about depression. It's not just about being sad. It's about feeling everything so intensely that your emotional volume is permanently stuck at 11. Most people see this as purely bad, like having a broken amplifier that only plays sad songs. But what if we've been looking at this all wrong? If you can feel sadness so deeply that it physically hurts, then you have the brain wiring for equally intense happiness. It's the same brain, just pointed in a different direction. As Jenny writes, "I am furiously happy. It's not a cure for mental illness. It's a weapon designed to counter it." When someone without depression feels happy, it might be a pleasant 6 out of 10. But when someone who's experienced deep despair feels genuine joy, that's a full-blown 10 out of 10. Pure, concentrated bliss that feels almost supernatural. Jenny discovered this during a trip to Australia where she hugged a koala. Yes, this actually happened. That moment of ridiculous joy became so powerful, it sustained her through months of difficult periods, like an emotional battery pack made of marsupial magic. The change happens when you stop seeing your emotional intensity as a curse. Start treating it as a gift that requires careful handling. As Jenny puts it, depression lies. It tells you you've always felt this way and you always will. But that's bullshit. Here's the thing nobody tells you about emotional intensity. It's not selective. The same brain that feels crushing sadness can experience explosive joy. It's like having a really sensitive volume knob. When it's turned up, everything gets louder. The trick isn't turning it down. Spoiler alert, that doesn't work. The trick is learning to appreciate the full range of what your brain can do. What's your emotional intensity like? Have you ever noticed that your capacity for sadness might actually predict your capacity for joy? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Story Shot 2. How do you build an arsenal of weapons against depression? Traditional mental health advice is basically a list of don'ts. Don't isolate, don't ruminate, don't skip medication. Don't. It's like having a very judgmental parrot following you around. But Jenny flips this approach entirely. Instead of just avoiding negative behaviors, she actively creates positive ones. She builds what she calls weapons against depression. These aren't your typical self-care suggestions. We're not talking about bubble baths and green smoothies here. Jenny's weapons are deliberately absurd and impossible to ignore. She travels across the world to hug a koala. She buys a dead raccoon named Rory and treats him as a life coach. Rory gives excellent advice, apparently, though he's not great at returning phone calls. She accepts bizarre job offers and stages zombie apocalypse drills in hotel ballrooms. The genius lies in the intentionality. When depression whispers its greatest hits, nothing matters, you're worthless, why bother trying? You have a koala-hugging story that serves as proof to the contrary. These aren't just fun memories. They're proof that joy is possible, even when it feels impossible. Jenny explains it perfectly. Make the kind of mistakes that make people so shocked that they have no other choice but to be a little impressed. The key is creating experiences so vivid and joyful that they become ammunition against future dark periods. When your brain tries to convince you that nothing good ever happens, you have an entire arsenal of evidence to the contrary. So what does this look like in practice? Adventure that makes you feel alive. Community that gets your weirdness. Creativity that doesn't have to be perfect. Self-care that actually feels good instead of like homework. Humor that acknowledges pain while creating healing. An authentic self-expression that stops apologizing for who you are. The goal isn't to become someone else, it's to become more yourself, but with better ammunition. Try this. Identify one completely ridiculous thing that would make you smile. Something so absurd that even thinking about it makes you feel slightly better. Then commit to doing it within the next month. If it makes other people question your sanity, you're probably on the right track. Story shot 3. Why is embracing your weirdness actually a mental health strategy? Society has this adorable little fantasy that everyone should be normal. I've never met a normal person, and if I did, I'd probably be deeply concerned for them. For people with mental illness, this pressure to conform isn't just annoying, it's suffocating. Jenny's radical solution is to lean into your weirdness so hard that it becomes your superpower. This isn't about being weird for attention. That's just exhausting. This is about recognizing that the traits that make you different are often connected to the same brain differences that contribute to your mental health challenges. Instead of seeing these as bugs in your system, what if they're actually features? Take Jenny's love of dead animals. Most people find this hobby somewhere between eccentric and deeply concerning. But for Jenny, these objects represent beauty, found in unexpected places. Her stuffed raccoon Rory isn't just a conversation piece. He's a tangible reminder that joy can be found in the most unlikely sources. Plus, he's an excellent listener and never interrupts, which is more than you can say for most therapists. When you stop trying to squeeze yourself into society's narrow definition of normal, something magical happens. You free up enormous amounts of mental energy. You also start attracting people who appreciate your authentic self rather than those who only like your carefully curated mask. As Jenny writes, you are imperfect, you are wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. Try this. Make a list of 3 things about yourself that you usually try to hide. The weird interests, the quirky habits, the unconventional thoughts. Then find one small way to celebrate each of them this week. Let your freak flag fly, because the world needs more interesting people. Story shot 4. How does humor become medicine without minimizing pain? There's a fine line between using humor as a coping mechanism and using it to avoid dealing with real problems. It's like the difference between a life jacket and a lead weight. Both involve water, but the outcomes are dramatically different. Jenny's humor doesn't dismiss pain. It acknowledges it with a wink and a middle finger. She doesn't make jokes about depression being no big deal. Instead, she finds absurdity in the situations that mental illness creates. The bizarre side effects of medications that make you dream about talking furniture. The awkward interactions with well-meaning people who suggest essential oils for your brain chemistry. The ridiculous things your anxiety convinces you are legitimate concerns. The therapeutic power comes from the community it creates. When Jenny shares a funny story about having a panic attack in the frozen food aisle, thousands of readers respond with their own similar experiences. Suddenly, something that felt isolating becomes a shared human experience that people can laugh about together. The laughter doesn't erase the pain. It makes it more bearable and infinitely less lonely. Jenny captures this perfectly. The most important thing to remember is that you can wear all the greatest clothes and be the most beautiful creature on earth. But if you don't feel it on the inside, it will mean nothing. Her humor works because it comes from a place of genuine understanding, not from someone on the outside looking in. Try this. The next time you have an awkward mental health moment, try to find one small absurd detail about the situation that you could potentially laugh about later, not to minimize the experience, but to reclaim some power over it. Story Shot 5. What's the difference between managing mental illness and curing it? One of the most liberating insights in Furiously Happy is Jenny's clear distinction between managing mental illness and curing it. She doesn't present herself as someone who has overcome depression, because that would be both dishonest and unhelpful. Depression isn't a dragon you can slay with a sword and good intentions. This perspective shift sets realistic expectations. Many people with mental illness feel like failures when they have setbacks. They think they should be better by now, as if mental health follows the same timeline as a broken bone. Jenny normalizes the reality that mental health management is an ongoing process, not a destination you reach and then maintain effortlessly. Her approach combines professional treatment with personal strategies. She's open about therapy, medication, and the trial and error process of finding what works. But she also shows how personal coping mechanisms fill gaps that clinical treatment alone can't address. This gives people permission to have bad days without feeling like they've failed at life. As Jenny explains, I can't always keep the rain away, but I'll always share my umbrella. The ongoing nature of management also means that strategies need to evolve. What works during one period of life might not work during another, requiring flexibility and self-awareness. Try this. Write down 3 strategies that currently help your mental health. Then brainstorm one new approach you could experiment with this month. Mental health is not a one-size-fits-all situation, despite what the internet might tell you. Story Shot 6. How do you build community when mental illness makes you feel like an alien? Mental illness can be profoundly isolating, like being the only person who speaks a different language in a room full of people having animated conversations. The temptation is to withdraw completely, but Jenny shows how finding your tribe can be literally life-saving. The key is being selective about your community. Not everyone will understand your mental health journey, and that's okay. Jenny advocates for limiting exposure to people who are judgmental or dismissive. This might mean setting boundaries with family members who think you should just try harder, or ending friendships that drain more energy than they provide, but actively seek out people who do get it. Jenny's blog has created a virtual community where people support each other, share resources, and celebrate small victories together. Jenny demonstrates how vulnerability begets vulnerability. By being open about her struggles, she gives others permission to share their own experiences. Jenny's wisdom shines through. You are not broken. You're just a person who has been through some shit. Building this kind of community takes time and intention. It requires being willing to be vulnerable first, setting clear boundaries about what kind of support you need, and being generous with support for others when you're able to give it. Try this. Reach out to one person this week who you think might understand your mental health experience, even if it's just to say, "I see you and you're not alone." Connection doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it just starts with acknowledgement. What's your most ridiculous weapon against depression? Jenny bought a dead raccoon and named him Rory. What's the weirdest thing that consistently makes you smile? Share it below. We need more joy in the world, and your story might inspire someone else's next adventure. Mental models from Furiously Happy. The emotional intensity spectrum. The same brain wiring that enables deep despair also enables intense joy. This applies beyond mental health. In leadership, managers who feel deep concern about problems are often capable of extraordinary enthusiasm about solutions. The weapon arsenal framework. Instead of just avoiding negative behaviors, actively create positive ones that serve as weapons against challenges. This works for any ongoing difficulty. Someone facing chronic stress might create weapons against burnout. Implementation Guide. Today, 5-minute action. Create your first weapon against depression by identifying one small, absurd thing that reliably makes you smile. Write it down and commit to using it the next time you need a mood boost. Bonus points if it's weird enough to make other people question your life choices. This week, 15-minute action. Practice radical self-acceptance by writing a letter to yourself from the perspective of a loving friend. Include 3 things about your mental health journey that you usually criticize yourself for. Then reframe each with compassion. Ongoing practice. Implement a monthly adventure audit where you identify one new experience to try. This could be taking a different route to work, trying a new recipe, or starting a conversation with someone new. Final summary. Furiously Happy revolutionizes how we think about mental illness by reframing it from a purely negative experience to one that can enhance your capacity for joy, creativity, and authentic living. Jenny's central insight, that emotional intensity works both ways, gives people permission to stop apologizing for their mental health and start weaponizing their unique brain wiring. The book's practical strategies include building weapons against depression through deliberate joy, embracing authenticity rather than conforming, using humor as legitimate medicine, and creating understanding community. Most importantly, Jenny demonstrates that mental health management is an ongoing journey. Success looks different when your brain works differently. What makes this approach powerful is its balance of hope and honesty. Jenny never minimizes real challenges, but refuses to let them define the entire narrative. The ultimate message is radical self-acceptance combined with proactive joy-seeking. You don't have to wait for your mental health to improve to start living a furiously happy life. Related mental health book summaries. You've just learned how to weaponize your emotional intensity and build a furiously happy life. But there's one critical piece missing: understanding the deeper psychological foundations that make these strategies work. The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, read by 10 million plus people, reveals the shame resilience techniques that amplify Jenny's authenticity approach, showing you how vulnerability becomes your greatest weapon against mental health stigma. What if everything you just learned about managing mental illness is only half the story? Feeling Good by David Burns. The CBT Bible challenges the idea that you need to accept depression as permanent and shows you the cognitive restructuring techniques that provide the scientific foundation for Jenny's intuitive strategies, but with clinical precision that can accelerate your healing. Ready to go deeper into the weapons against depression concept? The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin, NYT #1 bestseller, takes Jenny's deliberate joy-seeking philosophy to the next level with a systematic month-by-month framework for building sustainable happiness habits that stick even when your brain tries to sabotage you. You've got the theory about building community and finding your tribe. Now here's how to apply it when life hits you with devastating loss. Option B by Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant, recommended by Oprah, gives you the resilience-building toolkit to implement Jenny's sharing your umbrella philosophy during the darkest moments when everything feels impossible. Before you implement what you just learned about humor as medicine, read this. Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. Therapist's Insider View exposes the hidden dynamics that derail 70% of people who try to balance self-help strategies with professional treatment and shows you exactly how to make therapy and personal coping work together. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, Trauma Research Breakthrough, reveals why traditional talk therapy sometimes isn't enough for deep emotional healing, giving you the missing piece that explains why Jenny's physical weapons, like koala hugging, work so powerfully on a neurological level. Want to master these mental health strategies and build an unshakable foundation for joy? These insights are just the beginning. Get the complete Story Shots experience with full access to thousands of book summaries, exclusive audiobooks, and our thriving community of learners who are transforming their lives one book at a time. Join over 1 million achievers who choose growth over stagnation. Thank you for reading. This was the tip of the iceberg. Want to master these mental health strategies and actually apply them? Get the full audiobook for free today using the link in the description or the Story Shots app. Listen while you commute, exercise, or build your empire. Which of these lessons hit home for you? Share this summary with a friend who'd benefit, or drop a comment on GetStoryShots.com or your favorite podcasting app to let us know what resonated most. New to Story Shots? Imagine finishing 100 bestsellers this year instead of letting them collect dust. Join 1 million achievers who are outlearning, outgrowing, and outperforming their competition. One summary at a time. Choose from ad-free text, audiobooks, animated videos, or infographics. And that's a wrap on Furiously Happy. But don't go anywhere. For those of you who want to dive even deeper, we're sticking around for a quick bonus Q&A session right after this. Welcome to the bonus Q&A for Furiously Happy. We've pulled some of the most common questions people ask about this book to help you get even more out of it. First up, is Furiously Happy appropriate for teenagers struggling with mental health? While the book contains mature themes and language, many mental health professionals recommend it for older teenagers, 16 plus, dealing with depression or anxiety. Jenny's message of hope and practical coping strategies can be particularly valuable for young adults. Parents should review the content first and consider reading it together with their teens to facilitate discussion. Does Jenny Lawson provide specific medical advice in the book? No, Jenny emphasizes that her strategies are personal coping mechanisms that supplement, not replace, professional medical care. She consistently encourages readers to work with mental health professionals and doesn't present herself as a medical expert. Her approach combines professional treatment with personal strategies. How does Furiously Happy differ from traditional self-help books? Unlike traditional self-help books that offer step-by-step programs, Furiously Happy is a memoir that shares one person's experience with mental illness. The insights emerge from storytelling rather than prescriptive advice, making it more relatable and less intimidating for many readers. Can humor really help with serious mental health conditions? Research supports the therapeutic benefits of humor when used appropriately. Studies show that laughter releases endorphins, reduces stress hormones, and can boost immune function. However, Jenny's approach isn't about forced positivity. It's about finding genuine moments of absurdity and joy while acknowledging real pain. What makes Jenny Lawson's approach to mental health unique? Jenny's approach is unique because she doesn't claim to have cured her mental illness. Instead, she shows how to live fully while managing ongoing conditions. Her combination of professional treatment, personal coping strategies, and community building offers a realistic, sustainable model for mental health management.